So, I'm going to call this meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Scott.
Here.
Nedrow.
Here.
Sinkwitz.
Here.
McGee.
Here.
Nagy.
Here.
Kaznecki.
Here.
Mr. President, we have word from Mr. Cumbo that he is ill and will not be able to attend tonight.
Motion to excuse?
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Nagy. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Let's hope he's online watching this.
Indeed, he could be. Yes. Hello, internet audience. Okay, one correspondence, a thank you from Barbara Radish regarding the sanitary sewer process and her pleasure with her hookup. Do I hear a motion to receive and file?
Support.
Motion Nedrow, second Sinkowitz. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Additions to business?
I have no additions, Mr. President.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Nedrow, second Kaznecki. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first call to the public is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items. And we will ask folks to go up to the microphone so the audience at home can hear if you want anything. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I will close the first call to the public and move us on to item number 7, approval of the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion Kaznecki, second Nagy. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Nedrow.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Nagy.
Yes.
Kaznecki.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, no public hearings scheduled today. It brings us to item 12A, audit presentation, year-end audit presentation for our 2013 audit. Let me hand this over to Mike to introduce, and then we'll go to Raina to present.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. This will be the 8th year running that Raina Emmons from the firm PSLZ LLC has done the village audit. She began with the fiscal year that concluded in 2006, so she's got a really good handle, I think, on the history, where we've been and where we're going. And I hope you had a chance to look at least a few things over the weekend when I sent you the, we didn't have hard copies, but I hope you did get a chance to look at the scan that we sent in the email that attached to the email that I sent you. So with that, Raina?
Good evening. Just leave that right there. My name is Raina Emmons. I'm a partner with PSLZ, and it's my pleasure to be here this evening and to present to you the village's audited financial statements for your fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. I didn't realize it's been that long that I've been
Time
coming
does
out here.
fly.
But it has truly been a pleasure. I have great staff and management to work with here, and everyone's very cooperative, accommodating, whatever I need. It makes it very efficient and a pleasure, of course.
You've been on quite an exciting fiscal journey with us over the last 8 years.
Well, it's just wanted to give you some highlights this evening. Included in your packet, there's a hard copy of the final audit itself. There's a letter that you receive every year we're required to give to you as a communication to the council, and the color picture graphs, which I feel that council can see the numbers in a completely different picture. When you put it in a graph and chart form, you see things a little differently. Even I like to look at it in that format as well, because as fascinating as those individual numbers are, it is kind of nice to see it from a different perspective. We did have a slight increase in property tax revenues this year. But when I say slight, I'm talking about maybe $5,000–6,000. And we'd like to see any kind of momentum upward, especially from where we've been in the last 5 years or so, or everyone's really been in the last 5 years or so. So we'll take that. It is a positive, we're going in the right direction, and I don't foresee anything that would make the village, go downward. So we're happy with a steady or, anything positive. But just to give you some perspective on that, so from fiscal year 12 to 13, we went up about $5,000 in the general fund for general operating millage. The millage itself didn't go up, it's your taxable values that just inched a little bit upward. But in fiscal year 11, you were receiving approximately $50,000 more than what you received in fiscal year 13. So just to show you the difference there of, now we're gonna start kind of crawling, we're not gonna be able to make up the increase as fast as we took the hit on the decrease over the last 5 years. So now we're gonna start inching upward, and hopefully it's, it surprises us and it's better than anticipated as far as how quickly it goes up. But just to, tell you what's going on out there as far as property tax revenues. The general fund, we increased fund balance by $140,000 this year. The water and sewer fund, the big excitement there is really just that we sold 2 bonds this year. The way that the fiscal year fell, there were 2 bond issues that fell within this fiscal year, so we issued approximately $1.4 million total of those 2 bond issues. And those were for special assessment districts. And the upcoming highlights, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, the GASB, always likes to give us something new. I'm usually up here telling you something new every year. This year, in the statements themselves, it's really cosmetic. It's a formatting change. They changed some of the wording on the front statements. They went from statement of net assets, now they call it a statement of net position, and somehow that's meaningful to all of us. If anyone wants to talk about that in depth, I'm happy to do that, but for your purposes, it's really a cosmetic change. Coming up, though, in fiscal year 15, the GASB has gone toward including pension liabilities in the financial statements. Now, it won't hit your general fund statement or the street funds. It won't be your individual fund statements. But on those front statements where we show fixed assets and debt, now we're going to have to show the pension liability, unfunded pension liability in there as well. And that should be interesting on everyone's financial statements. It won't be unique to the village. So we all have to kind of stay tuned, and the actuaries have to do their magic in fiscal year 14, and it'll show up on everyone's financial statements starting with your June 30th, 2015 fiscal year end. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions that council may have.
One quick question, Rena. Correct me if I'm wrong. When the housing market dropped, there was no regulations on how fast and how much it dropped on a yearly or monthly or daily basis.
Correct.
But when the evaluations go up, we're controlled by that cost of living or a 5% cap?
Right.
Okay.
Headley Amendment, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that's why it's going to be, there's no way we're going to be able to catch up as quickly as how we came down.
And Oakland County in its assessments is pretty conservative around what they limit that at, so.
The other comment, I'd like to say that if you look at 2007 and 2013, our fund balance is almost tripled, so I think our past and present councils deserve a lot of credit for being proactive in making sure that the community stayed solvent.
Absolutely. It's also good to note that once again, the general fund, we've come in under budget. So what the council had projected, we were able to stay under budget, and that doesn't happen by accident. That is by proper planning and making good decisions along the way. That doesn't accidentally happen at the end of the year. That is through deliberate actions during the year, and Mr. Sienkiewicz is right that council should be commended for that.
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of work over the last 7 years that's gone into that fund balance reversal. Anybody else with questions for Rena? Go ahead, John.
Rena, I just had a couple quick, what other communities do you audit, just out of curiosity?
In Oakland County?
in Oakland County?
Well, okay, I have to go down the list here.
Well, just a couple. I mean, you don't have to go on the big
For
list.
villages, we do the Village of Lake Orion. City of Kego Harbor is about a similar size
Okay.
as the village.
Mhm.
Village of Bingham Farms, Southfield Township,
So quite a few, I guess, without going down the whole list.
close to 30.
Close to
So-
30.
So
Well,
between Washtenaw, Wayne, and I do predominantly Oakland County.
Okay, I just was asking that for my own personal background. I was just curious in that question. And I did ask this last year, and we, council included, of course, and everybody who's worked on various subcommittees have done a great job in terms of fund balance increases. We stand at 107. I'm repeating a question I asked last year. Among those other communities, where do you see that average fund balance stand as compared to expenditures?
The percentage is really, honestly, it's all over the map.
It is all over the map, okay.
Because there are reasons, though, why it's all over the map. And I think I've said this in prior years. You know, the past 5 years have really, it's uncharted territory for everyone. I mean, no one thought it would drop as fast as it did. I mean, you were hit on your three major sources of revenue. Property tax revenues took a significant hit, investment income took a significant hit, and state shared revenue took a significant hit. All three of those things out of the village's control. And not just Wolverine Lake, but other communities as well, just pretty much everybody in the state of Michigan. But, so that's what people base their budget on.
Mhm.
And typically you use your fund balance as a, you know, for rainy days. Well, we had quite a storm the last 5 years, but the village has weathered that nicely. And so when I say different percentages, it depends on what plans are for boards and councils. You know, where do you, what are significant projects that you see in, let's say, the next 5 to 10 years? Because it isn't easy to gather up money for larger projects overnight. And it isn't easy to, you know, when you look at the chart of the fund balance, you know, you were in a significant slump there, and it was a gradual thing. It wasn't like overnight that the village, you know, built up the fund balance.
Mhm.
So, I guess I would say, as far as where you stand today, probably council should spend some time, and you may have already done that. I can't speak to, I don't really know what the plans are, but the, you know, where are you going in 5 years? And whether it's a capital budget or even just projecting out the operating budget, 5 years is probably a pretty good, marker. 10 years is great, but I mean, things, you know, when you look at things like, you know, buildings need new roofs, we need, you know, new, you pretty much need new, police vehicles, you know, on a regular basis. You know, those are the kind of things that you look at and you see the cycles of how long, you know, how often you replace those things and have to save up for them. So that's
Sure.
kind of the plan is kind of the operative word as far as looking forward.
Well, I think I understand that, and I think most of the council understands that. There's no doubt about that. Of course, those same issues are faced by any number of your other 30 example audits that you do. And of course, we did weather, as the president said, some pretty difficult issues here. I just asked the question because I think from an audience perspective, they should understand the very points that you're making, so that the people in the audience understand what council has to face and make plans around. It just seems like a larger amount that we need to keep in mind in terms of going forward. And I know that council is doing that, so I know we work very hard at it. 107%, that's a good, healthy balance, I would think, in normal circumstances. And if we're lucky enough, the next 5 years will be normal circumstances.
And so again, for the audience, for anyone listening,
Mhm.
107%, what we're talking about here is 107% of what? That's the general fund total expenditures. So that's how long would you be able to run the village if your major revenue sources were pretty much came to a standstill? If you receive no more state shared revenue, interest income, well, it's pretty much, you know, negligible now, but you know, so if you, you know, something happened with property taxes. Well, you know, they're already talking about eliminating personal property taxes. So the measure of the 107% is how long can the village go on how long will it be able to pay their bills if our significant revenue streams were cut off? And, you know, again, saying that the last 5 years being uncharted territory, here are things that we never considered. We didn't consider that the legislature would consider eliminating personal property tax. That was, you know, until a couple of years ago, no one was talking about anything like that. Things like foreclosures that impacted the village. You know, the last 2 years, you've taken a hit to the general fund bottom line, you know, and we show that as an extraordinary item because by definition, those are one-time occurrences that are, you know, unusual and infrequent to the village. So, you know, who dreamed that, you know, significant foreclosures would impact the general fund of the village? Those are the kind of things, when I'm saying weathering the storm, we don't know, we're hoping that's all done. You know, everyone's pretty optimistic, I think, but we don't know for sure. There's still some residual. For example, the commercial property is still taking a hit on the tax tribunal. So they're having a hard time climbing back on the taxable values of commercial and industrial property. Residential's leading the pack. They're doing just fine, but the commercial and the industrial are still lagging a bit. So, you know, all these factors, I think we're still climbing out of it. Hopefully, everything will be leveled off in a year or two. I mean, you know, again, being optimistic, but just there's so many unforeseen things that we haven't taken into consideration because they're unprecedented, really.
And unknown, for
Yes.
the most part. Well, I thank you, and I think that elaboration was good for all that are here and all that I think might be listening in. I had one other question. Among those units of government, and I do get this question asked of me, regarding garbage collection. I guess I hear this more than not. We went through a time of making a decision in the village based upon a financial committee recommendation that we take garbage out of ad valorem taxes and do what I guess I'm more accustomed to, and that is charge those fees as a separate amount of dollars to each of our residents. And in some cases, they're very significant as a percentage of taxes. I've lived in 5 communities. 2 out of the 5 had their own DPW and therefore their own garbage collection. They were part of property taxes. 3, well, until we made our change here, 3 they added as a separate fee. I was just curious, among those 30 communities, and it's because of I'm asking these questions because of your perspective of seeing this in other areas. Is it normal in communities of our size that these garbage fees would be ad valorem, part of the taxes, or are they normally extra fees beyond property taxes?
They are typically separate fees, and whether some communities are even billed directly from the garbage
Waste hauler.
The waste hauler, yes, directly. And so, what the residents have to consider is that by billing them separately or putting a separate millage for the sanitation, it's not taking away from. I mean, you're basically paying for what you're using, but you're also not taking away from the general fund that may be paying for public safety. So, you know, it's kind of like you pick and choose. What would you like the extra millage for? And it seems that our sanitation is a everyone uses it, and it's, you know, the commercial obviously gets hit a little harder than the than the residences, but it seems a little more equitable. But many communities, you're fortunate that you don't have additional public safety millages on top of that. So the residents should pretty much consider themselves fortunate that, the village hasn't decided to, do a separate millage for all the services. But it's certainly, normal would be the word,
Okay, I appreciate your comments.
and common.
Thank you.
Hey, I got one
Oh,
question,
sure.
around if I can. Like these 30 communities that you work with, comparing these, I know some of it was answered in John's question, or your response to John's question, but as far as percentage is there a percentage out there with a negative fund balance? I mean, out of these, like our neighbors, Wall Lake, they have a problem over there, but I just didn't know if, we look better than the rest of them, or on average with the rest of them, or, it's a sort of a general question, but
I have to say, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that our clients that we do work with, I don't have to write up any reports with negative fund balances. But that is really a reflection on the boards and councils. Because they're not just spending money without not thinking about it. They're budgeting. Some communities, will budget and not even pay attention to it all year long. But, you do have, your administration has their eyes on the budget versus the actual at all times. And, as you're making decisions, they're guiding you. And, we don't, the books are not a mess, so we know exactly where we stand at all times. It's, again, how you make your decisions is how you end up at the end of the year.
No creative accounting required, is that what you're saying?
We don't give Mr. Koenig any opportunity for creative accounting.
Thank you.
No, and just to let everybody know, that's, reflected in this letter. This is, what I think at one point was commonly known as an unqualified audit in terms of there being no qualifications, no recommendations, no disagreements between how you see the fund balance, how Mike's been reporting the fund balance, and how we're looking at the fund balance. And I, for one, appreciate that. I think getting a clearer view of that fund balance 7 or 8 years ago of where we were going, bringing you guys in was a help on that way. Certainly bringing Mike in was a help on that way, and it's really helped us to make good decisions around it. I did want to point out a couple things while we're talking on the audit. Page 4 of the graphs that we have is a really good one to look at in terms of, for people who are wondering about the history of, so where did financial troubles come from? And it shows the state shared revenue both as the statutory part, which was the part that the state used to give under law, but it was a voluntary amount, and the constitutional amount, the amount that was hardwired into the Constitution. And you'll note that what was about $150,000 of statutory money that was coming into us has essentially disappeared by 2011. So that was a big chunk of our hit on top of the property taxes. And I think Raina mentioned it earlier, and everybody mentioned it earlier, but it's worth remembering as a village where we are in our mix of revenues. One possible piece of good news is that if personal property tax is phased out, it's not a really large revenue source for us. It's about $20,000. We are mostly residential, which is the piece of the real estate market that's bouncing back faster. But, and this is the question that I get all the time from people, well, okay, it's bouncing back, aren't the revenues going to be back? It is really capped, and it's going to be a long, slow build back, as there's churn and sales in real estate, that helps, set some new values. As people rebuild or renovate, that helps a little bit, and we've had some activity there. But, once we lost that property tax, that 22% hit, it's going to be a long time coming back. Certainly, this will all give us good stuff to talk about when we get to January and do a goals session and talk about where we are. I think the other things I noticed in here were a couple of the big hits we talked about in the last year or two in terms of as we were budgeting, knowing they were coming up or could be coming up. The harvester as a big ticket capital expenditure, the Panhandle property and the chargeback from the county, which we've absorbed, and then on the plus side, actually turning around and selling off that Panhandle property. So I think we've got a more stable situation going forward than we had a couple years ago. So clear picture, stable situation. Any other questions?
Just for, I guess, public information, these graphs are available upstairs?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Somebody might want to come in and pick them up.
They might be worth putting up on the website. Heck, let's put the whole audit report up there.
Yeah.
We do that typically
Public information.
annually.
Is it there?
As soon
Good.
as you guys
Oh, that's
see
right,
it.
too. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Going once, going twice. Rena, thank you again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. With that, do I hear a motion to accept the audit report as presented?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion Sinkowitz, second Scott. Further discussion? Let's get a roll call vote.
Sinkowitz.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Maggie.
Yes.
Kuzminski.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes?
Redrow.
Yes.
Thank you, council. I'm gonna dig my agenda back up from under the audit. All right, item B, recommendation from the Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommends council reappoint Philip Cook to the commission with a term expiring December 31st, 2016. His current term is expiring. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we reappoint Philip Cook to the commission, term ending December 31st, 2016. I think Phil's been a good asset to the planning commission.
We get a second, and then you can say
I'm
that.
sorry.
Second, Nedrow? Now you can say that.
Yeah, I think Phil's been, I think Brian can concur to that. He's been an asset to the planning commission. He brings some good background with him.
And he
makes-
shows up to the meetings prepared, he has a lot of discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, he brings a lot of good things to the planning, so.
Cool. And that was, by the way, motion Nagy, second Nedrow. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. CDE on consent. Item F, Lake Consulting Services 2014. Administration and Water Board, Water Management Board both recommend council extend Progressive AE's contract for lake management consulting services through 2014 at a cost of $10,000, a $1,000 increase over last year. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
So, motion Sikowitz, second Nagy. Discussion. John?
Yeah, the general discussion point on it. I know that back in November, actually October meeting, we were asked to support the 2014 renewal of the contract. And of course, I think it goes without doubt that the Water Board feels that Progressive A&E has done a great job. But part of what we said back in October was pending review. I was curious, seems to be about a 12% increase. I don't know, maybe a little more. I didn't calculate it. Moving from 9,000 to 10,000. Was there any comment as to why we're facing that big of an increase?
There was. I talked with Tony Grove several times, and he would like to continue as lake consultant, but they feel they spent considerably more time than anticipated this year, you know, with all of our extra things that they did for us. So they felt the $1,000 increase was something that they warranted, and also they will be doing a lot more work for us with the aeration and all those projects during the 2014 year.
So is it fair to say that this $1,000 increase might include whatever reporting and measurements? Or does he see that as some extra cost?
I think some of that will be included, and also we did ask them to do extra things this year that weren't in their contract, which they did not charge us for.
Okay. And so it was all verbal. There wasn't a man hour or an hour on the lake difference, or, I mean, can we look at seeing any, I know he does a great job in overseeing what we're doing in terms of the applicator. One of the things that I know we were impressed about on the Water Board was that they felt whatever costs that we would face from a limnologist, and that was true of the other people that we met when we made this decision, would be more or less offset by some savings that we might have to use in application. I think next year we're going to see, if in fact we follow some of what Jeffrey said, and we know there's problems with starry stonewort, I think the council has to be aware that there's going to be some, possibly some major large increases in requests for additional applications of herbicides and et cetera. So I just wanted to say out front, that seems, just by gut, to be a fairly significant increase. I know when we were interviewing Tony and the others, we were looking at charges of somewhere between 5 and 7. He came in at 9, and now we're talking 10. I'm just wondering, not to say that we don't go ahead, but if you feel it's a justified increase, we are still doing this year by year, correct?
We are.
We are, okay. I guess enough comments. I just wanted to stimulate any kind of observations that other people on council might have, but.
I think my observation is sort of kind of twofold. One is which I think everybody agrees that they did a really good job this year on the lake, especially in terms of us not having the harvester this year. We're still able to control
Yeah.
weeds pretty well. I think we are going to want to be more aggressive with the starry stonewort next year, and that's going to have some budget implications. And I think they did end up doing more work than they may have anticipated around, collecting information, getting things together. the first year for anybody on a lake is always sort of the most extensive. But we had some additional things, especially with aeration and a few other things that we were really asking them to take a look at that were probably a bit more work than they anticipated, but.
Okay.
I personally think it's money well spent.
I agree, I think, compared to the last year, 2 or 3 years, that's great. I mean, even without the harvester, like you said, we cleaned up the lake pretty substantially, and he
Oh,
had a
yeah.
good control over it, which
Yeah.
is a plus, no doubt about it.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think a lot of factors merged together, weather and et cetera, that helped.
Mhm.
I think we've made a great choice, so.
I think if it was a
Well,
long-term
the
contract, I'd be
explanation.
thinking a little hard.
Yeah,
1 year, I
absolutely.
think it's a.
Yeah, 1 year it's acceptable, certainly.
Anybody else? Okay, we had motion and second. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Vicky,
Yes.
Maggie,
Yes.
Kazneki,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes?
Pedro,
Yes.
St. Clair.
Yes.
Thank you, council. And now let's get our extra $1,000 out of them this year.
We'll work real hard at it on the board, I believe that to be the case.
Recommendation from the Water Management Board. Water Management Board recommends council reappoint Scott Lewis to the board for a 3-year term expiring December 31st, 2016. His current term expires at the end of 2013. John, do I hear a motion?
I'll put forward that motion to have Scott renominated or reappointed.
I'll second that motion.
Motion Scott, second Nagy. Further discussion?
It's a good addition to the board.
No question about it, Scott.
Yeah.
He's great. He's great. Voices his opinion when needed and gets things done.
All righty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, brings us to item H, second call to the public and opportunity for citizens to address the council regarding any and all village business. There you go, and come on up to the mic and name and address.
My name is Stephen Geppert. We have a place over on 738 Wolverine Drive. Back in August of this year, our neighbors started to build a quite rather, in our opinion, rather large playhouse. And I noticed in reviewing the minutes, Ms. Linda Champagne has been in here and commented about that. Well, we live right next door to it. And the reason we wanted to come by here today was just to see whether there's been any other action or proposed activity going on there, if it's just been kind of tabled, or if there's anything else we can do, because in our opinion, it significantly will detract from our property value. And I took some photos, which I'm glad to share with you. If you'd like to look at it, you can see what we see. And we checked into how the legality of it, because we always thought when we first got our place out here that Wolverine Lake was very stringent on, the sort of things that can be put right down by the lakeside, and we liked that. And yet, when we checked, and with the Planning Commission representatives, it looks like it was all legal. It was lumped in with gazebos and play structures and so on, and it's unattractive to us. We don't like it. And we want to just be sure that if everything's within the law, then we put up with it. But if there is some other extenuating circumstance, we wanted to put ourselves on record that we oppose it.
Let me ask our administrator to give you an update on where that stands.
They have filled out their application, and they will be going to the Zoning Board of Appeals in December to ask permission to keep that there. And you will be getting a notice. Everyone within 300 feet will get a notice of that meeting. So you're certainly welcome to attend.
And the reason why they're going to the ZBA is because they are not in compliance with the ordinances, so they have to request a variance. So the ZBA has to give them a variance to allow them to keep that structure there. If they don't get the variance, they can't keep the structure.
May I ask you what the variance is? Because we did not see that in our amateur reading of the code.
Sure, I'm looking for it right now, actually. You know what, you want me to get the section numbers to you after the
That would be
meeting, or-
fine, sure.
Yeah, it's been found not in compliance, and they're proceeding to go to ZBA now. So it'll go to ZBA. That's a really good group for you to get your opinion before.
Very good. Thank you.
Great.
If you'd like to call me tomorrow, I can give you those numbers if she can't find them right now, if you don't want to attend the rest of the meeting.
Oh, who wouldn't want to attend the rest of the
You're having all
meeting?
this fun. It's going to be one of our shortest meetings. You can be on the record book.
You're gonna discourage our vast internet audience.
Oh, no, I
That's
certainly
right.
want them to stay.
See yourself on television later.
Okay, anybody else? Second call to the public. Seeing none, I'll close the second call. And we will move to setting topics for the November 23rd work session. I will note that the Wednesday, fourth Wednesday of the month, many people will be baking apple pies or other activities. However, we should have a proposal from the request for proposals for aeration coming before the Water Management Board, the first,
And council,
and council.
Council.
The-
December 4th.
Right, and that meeting would be the first Wednesday. So I think we'd like to do a joint meeting with Water Management Board
Absolutely.
on their regular one. Get it before us, get everybody a good look at it, see what we have.
It sounds like we could do without a November work session.
We can do
That would be
without,
my
we can do
motion.
without, but I would like a motion to schedule a joint council Water Management Board meeting on December 4th.
I made one motion.
So we have a motion to not have a work session in November. Do I have a
I'll
second
second
for that
that
motion?
motion.
Second for Nagy. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to schedule a joint council Water Management Board meeting for December 4th?
I'll support that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion Scott, second Nagy. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? December 4th, 7 o'clock. Thank you, council. And I really look forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what we get. Okay, that is the end of our scheduled work. Business items. We've got a few other things here. Pending business, we've had electronic meeting communication on here for a while. What we're doing now with the microphones, with the streaming thing, is certainly a big step forward in that. We've discussed a few other things. I thought while we've got it here, we're having a pretty quick meeting. Mike, Ken, any updates on how the online meeting is going?
Yeah, Mr. President. First of all, we're going to get away from Ustream, which is the streaming channel that we're using, and I think we're going to be able to go to YouTube. We've just got to do a little kind of a transfer thing on our website, and we're going to have Oakland County do that with Ken and I. And that should presumably get rid of the whole commercial thing that some people have objected
Now,
to.
can-
and complained
Can you repeat that in 30 seconds in case a commercial just wiped you out?
The other thing, if, we're kind of learning on the fly a little bit here, I guess, and what we'd like to do, and this came up, last meeting being the Exhibit A, when people don't speak into the microphone, into the microphone stand, for example, the DNR representative, it was very difficult to pick up his audio on the streaming video, and you had to crank it up almost all the way. You could hear him, you could hear what was going on, but it might be a better idea so as to not have that situation where it looks like a rock concert where two people are talking into the same microphone. It would be probably a really good idea to have a handheld. And Ken and I have looked into that. Ken has come up with a recommendation for a really good one that we can fit into our amp. Would cost about $500. Battery life's not really good on those things, but remember that all of the money for this is coming out of that AT&T PEG fee that we've kind of escrowed and kind of sort of sequestered there. So in general, if it's okay with you, and given the experience that we had at the last meeting, and the likelihood that that experience is going to repeat itself, the handheld mic may be, just what the doctor ordered in terms of keeping the meeting continuity and having people's thoughts, particularly if it's a well-attended or very crowded meeting, be able to pass that around in the audience. So if it's okay, we'd like a general sort of direction to, go for that.
So I think if we get a motion to
I say we
approve the.
need a
if you could do a
motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve expenditure to purchase a handheld mic for the council sessions.
Up to $500.
Up to $500, thank you.
I'll second.
So motion Nagy, second Kesnecki. Further discussion?
No, I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's been talked about, I mean, we talked with Mike after the last meeting, but that would be very helpful, especially because I know what he's saying. I watched the video online, and you couldn't hear everything that the DNR gentleman was saying, so that would be definitely a plus. And as long as nobody drops or breaks their $500 microphone in passing the baton, okay? I think it's a good idea.
Ken, did I summarize that reasonably well, or do you have something to add? And if so, would you please step to the microphone?
That was perfect.
Okay.
The only thing
Would you
is,
be-
this is an example of an $800 microphone, so this $500 mic is a cost-effective mic.
So you're saying all of this money it has coming out of, not out of our taxpayers? Because, no, I hear this big meeting and all stuff. This is the kind of crowd we have 90% of the time. And, you know this is all in here and it's great and everything like that, but if it's money that we're spending from an outside source and not taxpayers' money, I'm for it. If it is taxpayers' money, I'm not. So you tell me.
Well, it's the amount of money that people are actually paying to AT&T, part of which comes to local governments for the sole purpose of.
Okay.
Okay. It can only be used for that purpose
We can
by
only use
us.
it for that anyways.
Okay.
Mike, do you have any stats on viewership? Have we,
I thought when I looked at the player this morning, I thought I saw the number 122. Now, I looked at I thought that was our October meeting, October 30th kind of special meeting. And I don't know if it's just that, or was it both the 9th and the 30th?
Those were the number of plays that were watched.
Just for the 30th?
No, just total plays.
Okay.
But during, I believe it was the last meeting, we had, I want to say right around 70.
Just
So
wait until we,
some-
just wait until we hit YouTube.
yeah, we do have YouTube. So we had somewhat of a full audience away from council.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
one way
that's
to look at it.
important to understand in the context of what's going on here.
And we do publicize it, by the way, Council. We do put the blast email out, and we do have it on the website, so we're trying to make people more and more aware of it. And,
Received one
you know,
today.
hopefully it gets traction.
Yeah. I heard from a couple people around my neighborhood who said they watched it and
Yeah, I did too.
and thought it was a good idea. I mean, I think we'll see that steady out and either grow or decrease over, the next 6 months.
Well, I got an email that Linda is watching it, so, down in Florida, where it's 78 degrees. So,
Hey, Mike, relative to that, that's a good thing with the wireless mic, but I can't remember what the discussion was that we had about it. We can get some kind of interplay between the audience members and the council if they have to, want to ask a question, but they're in the audience. Is that something that we legally can do, or is that something that potentially we can do? Just so we can get maybe some input from the village resident who can't make it, but they may have an email, they can type an email or pose a question to the council. I don't know.
So technically, that sort of thing is very possible. I would strongly discourage us from going down that particular route. Having run a lot of meetings with a mix of in-person and telephone and online and
There's a
all
call
sorts
with
of
the
things.
public.
Well, not to mention, how do you know they're village residents?
It can become
Yeah, okay.
it can become a great distraction. So
Amen.
I would say let's stay away from that.
All right.
So we don't need we don't need.
We need a vote. We need a vote.
Yeah.
We do have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
I just had a general question. I know nothing about technology, but can you hang mics to take over the issue of not picking up people in the, no? Okay.
It's not adequate.
Not adequate? Okay. Just thought I'd ask that question.
Get somebody to run around with a boom mic.
Well, I did, yeah, boom mic, or I'm just thinking of passing if we have some topics where you're passing a mic back and forth, which is fine. I mean, as long as we can pick up the questions, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
So,
And that was what Ken was trying to do last
Right.
month, was with the boom mic to try and pick up the audio from the DNR guy.
Just wasn't.
wasn't working. So.
All right. No further discussion. Let me get a roll call vote.
Maggie?
Yes.
Chesnecki?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes?
Pepperell?
Yes.
Sinkwitz?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes. We do not have Captain Ellsworth with us tonight, so I will move to the update from the treasurer.
I was going to do the microphone thing on my update, so I'm done.
Right.
Well, in the absence of Captain Ellsworth, I would like to report that the 2014 Tahoe is here. The graphics are on. You can go take a look at it when you finish the meeting tonight if you'd like. And for my update, I would like to talk again about the aeration RFP that's going to be due here, November 22nd. So we will have hopefully several RFPs for that project, and then we will discuss them, and it's a mandatory meeting that they attend on December 4th. The other RFP that has been sent out this week is for garbage and recycling. Our contract with Waste Management will expire the end of December, and we've used them for a number of years. They're doing a fine job, but we haven't gone out for bids for a number of years. So those will be coming back in December also. And one important message, a good message is, I believe the harvester is complete and will be shipped next week if we can coordinate the shipping and the crane company that has to actually lift it. I have some new pictures to pass around. And so we're excited to get it, and
Any
it'll-
plans for cold weather testing?
it's been tested several times there, and we will test it. We won't put it in the lake, of course. The lake is drawn down, but we will test it on the trailer several times before we put it away and let it cool down, start it back up, so that we make sure everything is working.
Was it tested in the water?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Why not?
I can pass these around.
I think it was a couple of recommendations by a couple of council members that they tested in the water, and we get a video of it, seeing it operated, sitting on dry land. You're not gonna get the testing that you should have on a piece of equipment like that.
Well, everything can be checked without it being in the water, other than the barge. That's the only thing that,
With the resistance of the water and the way the spuds go in, and the way the front end works, I mean, the water is gonna have an effect upon it. And I just don't wanna see it come out here, and then we have some issues. What was the big issue? Why couldn't they put it in water? Because they said initially, if I recall, that they were gonna test it in the water for us.
I
That
think
was
that-
part of their requirements.
I think that was probably earlier in the year when it could have been placed in water. easy.
We
Yes,
have
yes,
we have
we
a
will
full
have
warranty on it, so.
Yes.
Now, what is a full warranty? When is the warranty? It was supposed to be a 12-month warranty. When does that warranty start?
That's what we will be negotiating with them.
I still think it should have been tested in the water before it shipped. And
I agree with that.
and getting a
Hydraulics.
copy of the test reports for that piece of equipment. That's a capital piece of equipment we spent a lot of money on, and it's already 6 months late. And they should have provided that information, test results, et cetera, not just say, yeah, everything's working, don't worry about it. I just don't think that's the way to go with a piece of capital equipment of that magnitude and that late.
Well, and on the question of hydraulics, I think I can reflect upon a number of meetings where there were questions of oil leakage from our garbage collection service. You know, this just happens to be a natural part of that kind of equipment. That if you put something in resistance against hydraulic equipment, you're going to end up with a completely different PSI testing issue or resistance issue than if you sit it on dry land and spin the wheels. So
That's right, John.
as long as we have, I guess, extended ourselves this far in terms of time, could that question be asked directly of the supplier? Why they don't feel that they can at least do 2 or 3 hours in hard water testing for us and certify that everything is okay? I mean, the fact that it's going to be delayed another week after they do this, I don't think is important. Personal opinion.
I
And then
agree.
as far as the warranty, just to follow up on Pat's question, the warranty is going to start the day of delivery or the day we put it in the water?
We are negotiating that.
Okay, all right. And we're still negotiating some penalty clauses or whatever it might be in terms of contract breakage that we had between ourselves, or is that just under discussion with them?
We're negotiating that. some of these items have been discussed in closed session, so I don't think we should go into the legal remedies in detail in open session.
Understand.
The only concern that I would have about not having it tested in the water is, and I don't know if anybody thought about it, you can call it a harvester, but it's a boat or a barge. And if it's not balanced properly, where the equipment is, that, is it gonna sit to the right or the left, or is it gonna dip down, is it gonna dip back, or whatever? And I think, just as precautionary, that if, tell them, put it in the water and make it work. I don't have any problem with the hydraulics working. If they work on the land, they're gonna work in the water. Of course, there'll be resistance against them, but they're gonna work. I think my biggest concern is, how does it float? Is it trim? Does it lean to the right or left, or too much forward, or too much back? And if we could just, have them, and I'm sure they have a source for it, they're gonna have it on a trailer. And if it took us another week to wait for it, big deal. Put it in the water, make it work. And there's nothing that really you have to antifreeze, because everything is self-contained. It's not like an outboard motor where you have to, or internal engine that is in a boat where you have to drain it and antifreeze everything. I'm sure there's some things that have to be done, but I'd like to see a picture of it sitting in the water, or either a report or a video saying that, it floats properly, we're happy with it, and everything is fine, so that when we do get it activated next spring, that we go, oh, wait a minute, we got a problem here, so.
I agree with that on that.
Yeah, I
think
agree with
that's an
that too. I think
important
that's a good point about the
I hadn't
balance,
thought
et cetera.
about.
No question.
I'm honestly not as concerned on that point, because it is a well-established design. I mean, it's a well-established design. They've made quite a few of these. I think the balance is going to be fine. I would like to make sure that we get it in hand as soon as possible.
Let me ask you this, why couldn't we lower our lake down, but like Orchard Lake has a public launch, they don't lower their lake down. And they have harvesters going in there throughout the summer.
Yeah, we have to, the trailer and the harvester comes on separate flatbeds. We have to have a crane here to lift it off, so we would have to have a crane at some other lake to
Oh,
lift
yeah,
it.
so
We
can't
also
just-
did not order a street legal trailer.
Okay, that's true, I forgot that. And you don't launch it with it, you can launch it off the trailer, right?
Yes,
Okay.
but
they've
it's
gotta
not
get it
going,
off the truck.
No, but I'm saying, if they got it off the truck and put it on the trailer, okay.
We
but
don't
if-
have a street legal trailer.
Okay, that's right, we don't, so.
we purchased a trailer just to
Yeah,
bring it
no,
back and
I
forth.
I forgot about that.
We
All
also have
right,
a trolley
well, I
trailer.
think if they do something, or just, whatever you can get out of them, but I do agree that getting it here is paramount.
I didn't see on the picture, is our logo on, the village logo on there yet? They're gonna put the village emblem on the harvester, I thought.
They were, we were.
I thought it was gonna be
I'm
put
sure
on with
they
them.
I thought we put that on.
I
Yeah.
would think.
I don't
They
think we,
don't put
yeah, I
that.
don't think they did the logo.
artwork and all that. He's like we do our police cars.
Okay.
There will be a
It's only
harvester.
10 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it when it pulls into the, okay? Because they said a month ago it'd be ready in a week. Next week it'll be ready in a week. And they were still working on a trailer 2 weeks ago. They should have had that done 6 months ago. So I don't believe them until it shows up out here and it's 100% done. But after Ed's, Rex's comments and John's comments, we need to see a little bit more that, yeah, it's ready, don't worry about it, it works fine. Test reports, a video of it working, get it in the water, make sure it floats right, regardless if they made it for years. If they made them for years, it shouldn't be 6 months late, okay? They know what they're doing, if that's all they build, they ought to know how long it takes to build a piece of capital equipment like that. I've dealt with people in the past, and that's a very poor way to do business, okay?
Well, it's out of our hands right now.
I am not at all defending that
Well, I'm just
harvester
saying, I
company.
don't think we did a good job on our end to make sure it happened like they said it would happen. And if they said 4 to 6 months, and it's gonna be 12 months,
Well, I don't know how you can point the finger at somebody here
I agree with
in
that.
this room. I think that's totally, not, I don't want to use it, yeah, disrespectful.
well,
Everybody here is working on this thing, we voted for it, and the council approved it. Now, the company, whatever they did, to delay this. Either they were making other units and selling them to people because they had us on the hook, or they had other kind of problems is immaterial. But to say that because, what do you know,
And all I was,
somebody's got to go down there and knock on their door, well, we maybe could have done that, but that doesn't sound like that was going to make the difference. I think it's a very poor taste on your part to point the finger at that the problem is coming out of somebody sitting in this room.
well, all I was trying to say was, in my
No, I heard what
experience
you
with
said.
person capital equipment, you need to have a project schedule. We never got a project schedule. You need to go talk to the people. You gotta see the piece of equipment before it ships. We've never done that. And if they know you're gonna show up the next day or the next week, or you show up unannounced, that's, if they show you that you're interested, and they can't, oh yeah, that's a picture of it there, but that was really taken of another piece of equipment, it's not our piece of equipment. So you can physically get there and see it. It's a big piece of equipment, it's a big expenditure for the village. Okay, I just think, okay, I'm done, thank you.
All right. More on this next month, I am sure. Anything else?
Oh, thank you.
All right, brings us to council comments. We will start. Kazbeck.
I just have two comments. The first one, I sent you an email or phone, I can't remember which it was now, regarding the Snacks with Santa because the Park and Rec didn't meet, but we're going to be okay with withdrawing funds because it's in the budget, correct?
I'll take care of that.
Okay, so that's all right.
And it'll come to council, it'll just come to them after your meeting, because you didn't have a meeting.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Good.
You didn't have a quorum.
I know, yeah. I had that on my list of things to discuss, to make sure we did it for that. My only other comment is, since we won't be meeting before Turkey Day, wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and safe.
All right.
The only thing to have, wish everybody happy Thanksgiving also, thank you.
All right. Scott.
Geez, I'll join in the gobbler moment. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Nedro.
I just want to say that the packing party was a great success. We packed, I think it was what, 400, or no, 300,
No, 400 and something.
350, 342, something like that.
I think the number was in the 300s, but it was a lot.
Like 348, I think, 347,
500
348,
last
about an
year.
hour and a half, so. So everybody, thanks for that, and I guess we did end up getting some emails back from some troops and everything, so. Just wanted to thank everybody on that again, and happy Thanksgiving.
Sikowitz.
I'd like to reiterate the happy and safe Thanksgiving for anybody that will be traveling. I got a couple of comments. First of all, I want to ask you, has the home on Oakview with the structure been given a certificate of occupancy yet?
No.
Okay. Because I noticed that now the fence is permanent in front of there, and I guess the one thing that, and I don't know, we've discussed this enough, was that built as a two-car garage, or was it being built as an accessory structure, or are they one and the same?
The accessory structure,
Okay.
as far as I had heard.
Well, they don't have a garage, so.
Right.
Because I know there's a shed back there, and there's this too. Okay. Because I noticed before he had the fence just kind of dangling there, now it's been permanently put in and there's a walk-through gate. So, if it was built, made to put cars in it, you can't put cars in it. That's just a point that I've noticed. And the other thing is, I hope that a couple of our council members who prolifically send out emails pay attention to what our attorney has been telling us for months now, that these emails can get us in a bad spot. So I hope a little bit more care and consideration is put as what's in the context of all these emails. Thank you.
All right. For me, we will be having an admin committee this month. I was hoping to catch you and Ron. When I said the 18th, I actually meant the 25th.
I saw it. Yeah, fine.
The Monday before Thanksgiving, so Monday at 10 o'clock. And that's it. Happy Thanksgiving.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion Sikowitz, second Nedro. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
1 hour.
Exactly.
1 hour.